Today let's look at named ranges. So named ranges, as the name suggests, it is naming a bunch of cells. So if I have to name these cells as total, so all I have to do is just select them, come to the cell address box and say total, and I'm done. So next time whenever I want to call these group of cells in a formula, I can just say total now instead of B12 to B11. This method may not be feasible if you have a lot of columns, so in which case there's another method where you can select the whole range and say create from selection. Now it'll give you an option whether you want to name the ranges based on the value of the top row, left row, bottom, or the right. So now it senses whether it is either the top or the left. So now I want it to be named as the top row. So I'm going to select the top row. I'm going to uncheck the left. I'm going to click OK. Sure enough, we get all the name ranges created behind. Why is it so important to use these name ranges? So I can simply now say is equal to sum of total instead of selecting B2 to B11, dragging it, and so if I just say that, enter, and I get the total. Even on a readability, this looks okay. I am summing the total column, it's more readable. Now if you ask me if I'm going to enter more data, is it going to automatically adjust and tell me the total is now for this? It knows that the total is only till here. It does not know that the total can extend. For this, you will need something called a dynamic named range. So we will use, and you can do it in many ways. One of the ways I feel the best is by using an offset function. So I'm going to write the formula here, but then we will carry it to the named range a little later. So I'm going to undo so that you can see the difference a little later. So I'm going to say is equal to offset of this cell, comma. So I want the name range to start from here till here. So I'm going to say offset by one row as a starting point for my range. So I'm going to say offset by one row down. I don't want it to move any columns, so I'm going to say 0 here, and the height. So what will be the height? And I wanted the height to be the dynamic factor where if there's more data, then it automatically changes. So I'm going to use the count A function. The count A function returns the non-blank values in a range. So I'm going to say count A, open brackets, and I'm going to say select the whole of the D range, and I'm going to close the bracket. Of course, the D range will now return a value 11, but I have only 10 values in my range. So I'm going to put a -1 just to remove the total value. So now I'm going to close brackets. I'm going to just freeze these values of here so that they don't change by any chance. So I'm going to hit enter. Sure enough, we get the range. That is proof that this was right. Now I can simply cut this from here, enter, go to the name range, and now I'm going to name this as dynamic total. So we know the difference between both. So I'm going to paste that here. I'm going to click OK. Now I have something called dynamic total. Now I'm going to just click that, and it sure enough shows me the correct range. But that is done. Now I'm going to say is equal to dynamic is equal to sum of dynamic total, and I'm going to close parentheses. It gives me the same answer, but now see, it will change. Now I'm going to add some more data. For example, I have the same data. I'm just putting it there. You can see the difference between what total did and what the dynamic total did. So this is called a dynamic named range, so that the name range can dynamically change according to the number of data which is entered. Now we are going to look at something called a hash name range. That is, now we have a functionality in Excel to spill a name range. For example, if I say filter this array, okay, if this array is equal to apple, sure enough I get all the ranges where apple, so basically it put a filter and it gave me a range. Now if you see, this is f and whatever is filled under it is f6 hash. So this is another sort of a dynamic array where Excel will put a hash by itself after the starting name range to tell to dynamically change the height. For example, even if I have to change this to orange, now it is 3. Now it is still f6 hash and we are able to get 3 cells of the range. Now let's see how well we can use this. So I'm going to say is equal to sum of, I want just the total of the oranges. So I'm going to say sum of f6 hash, close brackets. I'm going to put it in. So the sum of all the oranges is 73.75. Now I'm just going to make this a little different. I'm going to say is equal to this cell so that when I change you'll be able to see it. Now let me put banana. Now f6 hash has changed to 1 2 3 4 5 cells. So this is also a very good way to use a dynamic range when you're using spill ranges. That's all I have for you in store today. Hope you liked it. Thank you.